I came into six figures of money in March of 2017. That kind of was my downfall. Always chased, always chased. Just some people take 100 and whatever happens, happens. I take the 100, then I go to the ATM, take out 1,000, go back to the ATM, take out another, then max everything. I max all the cash advances I could. This is what you have to go through. This is what gambling does to you. This is what it did to you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the One Day at a Time podcast. Today's guest is Jeff G, a compulsive gambler in recovery who made his last bet on May 23rd of 2023. Jeff, thanks for joining.
My pleasure, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this one because you've told me a lot about your story ahead of time, and I think that people are going to be able to relate to it a lot because I can relate to it a lot. Daily fantasy sports was what sucked me in, so I'm interested to hear your perspective on it. But why don't you lay the groundwork out? When was the first time that you gambled?
First time I ever gambled was I was about 13, 14 years old. I'd go to visit my grandpa down. He lived down in Boca. He'd take me to, I think it was in Fort Lauderdale, the dog track. I think they were miniature greyhounds or something like that. They were racing dogs. I'd pick whatever sounded good, whatever name sounded good. Little did I know that was going to suck me into the world of gambling, because the first time I did that, obviously hit for my grandfather, but it's obviously he gave the money to me, and it was off, literally off to the races. I never bet really horses and stuff like that, but I was always into sports. So when daily fantasy came out in like the mid 2000 early 2010s, I was like, let's see what this is all about, cuz I would do my research. I'd put so much time and effort into these lineups and just wasted so much of my early 20s. I came into six figures of money in March of 2017, and I never really had money like that. My jobs have always been like middle of the tier. Like I live paycheck to paycheck, so that kind of was my downfall. My ship came in. My dad always said, Jeff, your ship came in. It sailed. I chased that from 2017 till 2023.
Yeah, so people were telling you after you had this big win that's like, "That should be enough, you're set for life, everything's perfect now," but it didn't feel like it was enough for you?
It was like fake money. It didn't feel real. It never when I'm gambling, nothing feels real. It feels like I'm playing with Monopoly money, and it's gonna just keep refilling the tank, so to speak. Once the well runs dry, you try bankruptcy, you try this, you try that, you go through all these things that obviously you start clean, and then you dig yourself deeper. So I just kept digging the hole, and it was just a
Mm.
terrible way to live. Fast forward to 2018, I meet my now wife at the time. She's a sweet girl, great girl, had no issues with anything. She's pure as can be, the best person in the world. I lie to her about everything. I lie to her about how much I gamble, how much I spend, all sorts of things like that. And she's thinking, we're going to build a future, we're going to do all these great things. And here I am pissing it all down the toilet. And I still struggle to live with that, because the deceitful things that I was doing.
If you can relate to the feeling of never feeling like you've had a big enough win to satisfy you, it could mean that you're struggling with a gambling problem, and if that sounds like someone else you know, it could mean that they have a problem. If that sounds like you or someone you know, then smash that subscribe button because on this channel, we're diving into stories just like this to make sure that you don't go any further down that path. While this is happening, does your wife have any idea about how much you're actually gambling, or are you keeping it a secret while it's happening?
She didn't know how much. She had no idea. She was thinking it was we'd go to AC from time to time. We'd go to Mount Airy, and she had no clue the amount of money I was gambling with. Little did she know I took from our wedding fund. I had to go down all sorts of avenues to repay and go to my parents, and just awful things like that. And you'd think that it would, after so many times, it would sink in that this isn't normal. Always chased, always chased. Could never walk away. Just some people take 100, and whatever happens, happens. I take the 100, then I go to the ATM, take out 1,000, back to the ATM, take out another, then max everything. I max all the cash advances I could. This was casino gambling. Like I said, DFS, daily fantasy, really was the one that kind of made me feel like I could be a high roller because of the money I came into. And
With that money that you came into, like, what was the feeling like when you had that big win? But then what did you do with that money immediately after?
I think it's page 12 of the book, What is the Dream World of the Compulsive Gambler? When I came into that money, I was doing everything with it. I was buying everyone everything. I did thankfully buy a car and pay that off immediately. Yeah, even after that I still had a substantial amount of money left. It all went down the toilet. There was nothing left within, I want to say it was March. By Christmas, by the holidays, I was broke again. I was normal Jeff G again. I wasn't anything special. And from then on, it was like, what am I going to do to get that feeling back? I needed it, that dopamine rush. And every night I would play, I would feel this is going to be the night. Ebbs and flows. Sometimes I'd win, sometimes I'd break even. Most of the time I'd lose. It always seemed like I had that one win to keep me going. Once that really came to an end in like 2019, when I was truly tapped out, like I had no way of getting any more money. Like I had to do it. I had to go into a GA meeting. My girlfriend at the time, she was actually my fiance by then. We moved pretty quickly. I didn't take it seriously. Came back in 2022. Things were a lot worse, obviously, because doing I was just tapping out all the wells. All the wells ran dry. Begged mommy and daddy for money. Begged this one for money. Begged that one for money. In 2022, tried GA again. It
Mhm.
was June of 22, and that's when she caught me. She truly caught me. The first That was her first time catching me doing with something.
For those that don't know, GA is a support group that people go to get help for a gambling problem, and that's what we're talking about in this video. So, during this time period of 2019 until 2022, you are saying that you're going to support group meetings to your fiance when you're not actually going and you're continuing to gamble. Like, what was that situation like in that 3-year span?
Okay, so I obviously told her I'm not at that point yet. I'm not to the point of where these people are. I don't need to be there.
Mm.
You don't need to be in Gamanon because she's in Gamanon, which is awesome as well for gambling, compulsive gamblers. I was telling her like I don't need this, and she agreed. I managed to connive her into agreeing.
Mm.
Um,
What was that? What was that thought of like I'm not like them? What was the reasoning behind it?
I only lost money. I didn't lose houses. I didn't lose my relationships. I didn't lose all sorts of things. I wasn't there yet. And I got pretty low. I got to a point where I didn't want to be here anymore. I would go to sleep, pray I didn't wake up. There's people that can help. There's ways to get help, and my ego was too strong at the time. Like you can swallow this and do this yourself, and you can't do it yourself. Even with the support of my wife, my family, it just wasn't enough, and it drove me to the point where I really didn't want to be here anymore.
Within that time span, you had previously gone through this win that turned into a loss back in 2019. Where were you finding the funds to continue to gamble, and what did the gambling really look like? Like, what were you doing between 19 and 22?
Oh, it was so terrible. I was hitting my parents up for a lot of money, using their cards, using that because I 2019 I banned myself from online casinos and all that stuff. Then it was memorizing social security numbers, and that kind of stuff, and doing real shady stuff. Thought I was gonna hit again. I thought that I was gonna come into money and they were gonna be happy. And look at this, look, ma, look, dad, like it's yours. It was terrible. And then when they banned them, because they had to ban themselves just so I couldn't do that. And when they did that, I resorted to sports card breaks, buying and selling sports cards. And from 2020 till 2021, 22 till 23, that was my way of gambling. I would buy into sports card breaks and hope I got a good team, get some cards, and sell them and make money, and then keep going like that. That was my degenerate brain, like just doing anything it could to get that dopamine rush.
Why do you think you wanted that rush so badly?
I wanted it easy. I wanted something for nothing. I wanted I wanted to get to where I wanted to go, or I wanted to get the most that I could with the least amount of effort. That was my MO, my entire a lot of my life. Work easy, play hard, I guess you could say. That was how I rolled. Like I said, in 2022, it got me to the point where I had to really go to GA and take it seriously. I made 90 days a couple times. I would always go back to the apps, always go back to the streamers and buy into the breaks, knowing that it was gambling, knowing that it was wrong. My wife would catch me watching the streams and she'd be like, "Jeff, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Where don't you want a future? Don't you want to?" I told her yes, and at the time I don't even know if I meant it because I was just so I just wanted that rush all the time. So from 22 to 23, I kept going back, kept going back, kept going back, changing my date every couple months. I changed my date every couple, sometimes every few weeks. Then May 2023, get thrown out of the house. My wife had enough. That's it. Jeff, you're out. You're out of my life. Get out of our house. Can't see me. Can't see the dog. Can't live under the same roof as me. I call a few people in the program, crying my eyes out like a baby. This is what you have to go through. This is what gambling does to you. This is what it did to you. Look at yourself. You're defeated. You're driving on the Garden State Parkway north to go home to sleep with mom at mommy and daddy's house in your old room. 33 years old at the time. Is that where I wanted to be? Like, is that what my life amounted to? That I had to live with back home in my old bedroom. And she took me back a week and a half later, a couple, maybe 2 weeks later. She was like, we met at a neutral site. She still didn't want me in the house. And she said, Jeff, if you're going to do this, if we're going to be something, you have to take this seriously. You have to go to the meetings, be honest, be open. I finally did it. I never thought I'd be able to string together any sort of real amount of time. I thank her for kicking me out of the house. I thank her for that. That was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Life gets better. It gets better. Things happen for reasons. I stopped one job, found a new one, and I've been there for over a year now, and it's like I finally have like a purpose of like helping people, doing something that I'm pretty passionate about. That never would have happened if I didn't get kicked out of the house by my wife.
It's interesting because the reason that you, in your previous stint with the support group, didn't find recovery was because you felt like you couldn't relate to how bad things had gotten for the others in the room. But it took getting to that point yourself before you had kind of like the wake up call to turn things around. Where do you think you would be right now if that didn't happen? That event didn't happen and you stayed at home and continued to kind of hide things from your wife?
She would have left me and I would have probably lost it. I don't know if I would have been able to keep it together. I wouldn't have been a functioning human being. I would not I would have been either dead, in jail, in the streets.
It's interesting that like one small, not small, not that it was small, but one singular event can have such a widespread impact on the rest of your life. It makes me think in like my own story, what things had to happen for me to get to the point that I'm at today. And to anyone that's watching, they might be thinking, well, God, I don't want to get to that point before I stop, which is the point of us doing this, I guess, is by sharing these stories. But to someone that's struggling right now, that's in where they're in the same position you were in and call it 2020, 2021, what kind of words of wisdom would you have for that person? And I'll challenge you by saying you can't tell them to just quit gambling.
You might not be there yet. You might not feel that bad yet. It's going to get worse. If you're a compulsive gambler, it's not going to get better. You won't get that big win that you think that's going to bail you out. It's not going to happen. You're going to dig deeper. You will resort to everything that you said you would never get to. You said I might not be there. I'm not there yet. You will get there. Inevitable for a problem gambler, for a compulsive gambler. This disease will take everything from you and you won't even realize it because you're thinking that next win could be my hit. And let me tell you, I had a hit. It ruined me. It ruined me. It took me to the lowest point I feel I've ever felt. I don't know if a human can feel it any lower than I felt.
Can we talk about something real for a minute? If your gambling has started to feel less like fun and more like stress, trust me, you're not alone. Millions of us know what it's like to say, just one more bet, or feel that urge that's really difficult to explain. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Evive, a sponsor of today's video. Think of it as having a recovery companion right in your pocket, someone who actually understands what you're going through. No lectures, no pressure, just practical tools and genuine support when those challenging moments hit. Download Evive now and you'll get guaranteed free access through 2026. Not a trial or a limited version, but the complete platform, completely free. Because Evive believes that everyone deserves access to support that works for them. Download Evive today and take the first step towards changing your relationship to gambling. Evive is only available in select countries. Going back to like the period of time just after this massive daily fantasy sports win, did the win itself change the amounts that you were gambling? And you don't have to dive into specific amounts, but were you gambling higher amounts following the win?
Absolutely. I thought I was going to be the next big thing, and you can't be those guys. I was making X amount. I was gambling 10 times more than I was actually making in my salary because I had that savings or that money in my checking account.
For people that don't know, what is daily fantasy sports?
I don't even know if it's that big anymore because everybody's doing like in-game betting and stuff, but daily fantasy, you'd pick players from teams whatever sport, NBA, NFL. My hit was in NBA, so I'd pick players that were playing that night, every stat possible, points, steals, blocks, rebounds, you get points for. You pick the right combination of players that night who do the most with a given amount of money. Your player scores the most points, you get the most money. Cursing out a lot of basketball players who will never know who I am. So
I
Andre
can
Iguodala, if you're out there, I'm so sorry I cursed you out over a stupid bet.
Man, I did something similar. I took it a step further. I've found myself DMing players saying, "I can't believe you did that. You're terrible." Like an idiot, but whatever. So a lot of people in the audience probably can relate, whether they want to admit it or not, to mixing gambling with substances. Maybe they drink when they gamble, maybe they smoke when they gamble. Were there times during your gambling that you were mixing in substances to enhance the experience? And what was that like?
Obviously, there's medicine for ADD, Adderall, Vyvanse, those kinds of things. I have ADD, but I had no business taking it at like 6 p.m. and staying up all night long like an idiot. So, yeah, I hate to say it like that, but I did definitely recreationally, stupidly use medication to enhance my gambling, to enhance my focus. I thought I was like, I'm gonna play blackjack all night. I gotta stay up.
That's fascinating. I think that I'm probably someone that has ADD as well. I've never gone out and been formally diagnosed, but there's a big correlation between that and struggling with problem gambling, dopamine pathway problems in the brain. So now that you're in recovery and you are working the 12-step program and working alongside other people who are trying to stop gambling, what do you do to kind of nourish your recovery or make sure that you're staying clean from gambling? Like, what tips would you give someone in the audience that might be trying to stop?
Alright. I never dove into the steps too much, but I know step 12 is paying it back. I love the camaraderie of GA, of the rooms that I'm in. I love how people cheer each other on, and it's not a me program, it's a we program, and all these cliches that I always used to make fun of. Like, if your existence is that miserable and it's because of gambling, finding GA is just God's answer. It's so cliche, but you're around so many people. Your first meeting, obviously, you see people smiling, laughing, like, what are these people doing? It's unbelievable the amount of camaraderie that I feel about the program. I'm in group chats. I talk to somebody in the program almost all the time, almost every day, I should say. You can't help but get better if you surround yourself with healthy people, healthy thought, healthy thinking, doing the right thing. Doing the next right thing is big too, and that's what I try to do because I'll never be perfect. By doing the next right thing, I'm that much closer to being a better person, being the best version of myself that I could be.
I love that. That's so fair. It's like we want to get everything perfect. We want to turn everything around all at once, but it's not reasonable and it's not necessary. So I really like that you said that. I'm gonna do something that I haven't done in a while, and I want to basically comment on what you just said as if I'm on TikTok. If you remember the kinds of comments that I would get back then, a lot of times it's younger people who are not by any means at all ready to stop gambling. And they typically view me as a bad gambler. If you were to receive this comment, how would you reply to it? Dude, just go back. You are so close to getting another big win.
No, it ain't happening. It ain't, I will never be satisfied with a big enough. There's not. You could fill a room up with $100 bills. It ain't gonna be enough for Jeff G. I don't care if it's $1 trillion. I won't do the right thing with it. It's no good. It's dirty money. And I want to make my money honestly now. I want to do the right thing. I don't need that big win anymore. If I did, then there'd be something seriously wrong with me if I ever thought about going back and just doing it one last try, give it one last try. No, there's no one last for me.
How much of it really was about money by the end? Was it about getting rich or was it about continuing to gamble?
It was about continuing to gamble, getting the status that I thought I
Mhm.
deserved, all about that. It was
Mm,
never about the money. I just like seeing my name in top 10.
mm,
I just like knowing that I was better than the masses, an attorney. Really care all I cared about was saying I had it.
mm.
And then once I had it, I spent it quick. It would go so quick. So like what's the point of even having it if you're going to blow it?
You had your first gamble at the racetrack, but years later, Daily Fantasy Sports comes out. You said you started it once you found out about it, but what about it drew you in?
I think it was just all the numbers, all the stats. I could use my knowledge. I thought I was going to find the perfect combination. You're going to put together the lineup that nobody else thought about.
Mm,
You're going to have that sleeper.
mm,
You're going to be the one that goes that's ahead, that comes out ahead. I did that so many times. I did that every time. Every time. Every day for years in multiple sports cuz I would do baseball, basketball, and football. I had my big hit with basketball, but that rolled right into baseball season, the March, and then I was wagering stupid amounts in baseball tourneys. And by football season in September, that's when it got really like I got really reckless
mm.
and threw big money into those tournaments. All along, I wanted people to think I was doing great. I was still good. I'm still good, guys. I still got this bankroll.
So it was progressive, but it always was the underlying desire to prove that you knew this game or you knew whatever it was that you were gambling on.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Like I know the winners. I'm the winner, and if I could only go back in time, I mean you can't, but if I can help one person who's at that point, like at that age, in that phase of their life, stage of their life, thinking that they're gonna have that big win, probably not. I hate to say it, just give it up.
I mean, you have the opportunity right now to say anything you'd like to that person because they're going to be watching it. If they make it this far into the video, there's a really, really good chance that they're looking for help or they're looking for someone to motivate them to take that first step into recovery. So it's like you got the chance to travel back in time, talk to a younger version of yourself. What would you say?
If you give this up now, your life will be so much better. Your mental health will get so much better. You'll have inner peace that I never had. I won't say I have like the zen right now, but I'm in such a better mental state than I was years ago. Life is gonna throw you curveballs all the time. I'm able to handle them differently now. I can live life on life's terms and go through hard times and not have to resort to escaping, to gambling, to doing anything that I shouldn't be doing. I don't need to. There is help out there for compulsive gamblers. And if you got to this point, then yeah, you probably need help. And it's okay. It's okay to need help. And that's okay. That's okay. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't feel like you're a burden and don't feel like I'm gonna bother that person because they probably want to help you. Everybody who wanted to help me, I didn't want their help. for such a long time. If I just would have picked up the phone, or if I would have just answered their call or answered their text, who knows how much sooner I could have stopped the bleeding.
Jeff, thank you so much for sharing that story. And to anyone in the audience that's looking to hear another story of someone in recovery from a gambling addiction, then check out this video and let's keep getting better together, one day at a time.